I find it really difficult to assimilate all this stuff, and I allow each individual to do that and do it as well as they can. And it's not that I'm totally into it and I can relate to so much of it, but for me, I've just got to keep it real on my level. And I think this is something we can all buy into. We're all South Africans. We all give a shit about this land. We all give a shit about our environment. I just think we just got to help each other here. You know, we can't just move on.
How's that going to happen? Would you say that's to happen from within out? Like, who needs to go and talk to those farmers to tell them, can we have those areas? Somebody from the outside is unlikely to be able to go in there and say, we want your area. Would the solution be to go and talk to them and say, let's blossom this thing from the inside out. Let's give our land. Let's take down the fences. Let's make it grow.
But once it's there, we need to make sure it's successful. And when it's successful, then you've got something where all these issues can be dealt with, and each person can find his little niche, you know.
But is there any chance of getting the politicians interested? Because there are no votes for them in those areas.
I deal with politicians all the time.
I mean, this has got international significance, I believe, you know. There are so many things we can get right, and that's we can't discuss that in detail, but I know that you guys, look, if there wasn't national parks on the list, we didn't have a Kruger, we don't have a Kalahari, a Kalahari, we haven't got them. And I came to you today, you know now what these places are like, and I said to you, we don't have these places. How would you guys feel? Would you skip? Hey, we need those freaking places. That's a thing that we can drive for all the good reasons, for all the issues, for whatever. So we've lived in this Africa with these national parks and this out of Africa thing and the Big Five and the game ranges, and supposedly singing my song. And supposedly, you know, we looked at by the world as, you know, we're pretty cool with conservation. You know what? We're cocking it up so bad, and we bullshit ourselves through it. We need, and our policy, which is designed by some of the best environmental brains in the country up until now, let's implement that policy. Let's drive that policy.
But it needs to be refined. But we've got people who also can take these ideas and strategy, refine it. We've got the financial plan, identifying the revenue streams, what can be done. It needs to be put down into financial simple plan, where you can actually say, okay, well, this is the revenue again, boom, 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 it can be sustainable. We also need to have a means why even the worker who lives there is part and parcel of the ownership.
Absolutely.
So we built in fact, it came straight out of Silicon Valley. We developed their motivation system. I believe you need a motivation system behind these things, where the guy who works harder gets more.
Yeah, it's interesting. I know places in that area, but I've never looked at it in the same sense as you just presented. So it's actually a big eye-opener. And how many of those areas, if you look at the map of South Africa, how many category ones do you see?
Well, you see, that's the thing. You need to get the momentum. Well, there are none. But there's candidate areas for sure.
How many candidates are there?
I mean, I'm just sucking thumb, but definitely Kruger's got a wilderness area. Kalahari's got one. There's the Cedarburg, there's the Swartberg, Gouritz, and there's the Baviaans, the old Cape Folds.
At one stage we were talking about turning the entire Cedarburg, right, that whole chain of mountains, because in a way mountains are areas that are, you know, they're not really for agriculture. And it's like potentially a very good, because it's so difficult to get into. If we went right from the top of the Cedarburg all the way along, all the mountains, right to the very end of the Baviaanskloof Mountains, and we turned that whole area into this sort of no-go area, water catchment area, category 1 wilderness area, and all these pristine ideas that we decided, and I think one of the things that this group is certainly going to adopt is that we do put that wilderness strategy into play.
And then we got politicians who can help hugely to affect the things we want.
The strategy, a form which says, okay, this person, we're going to do this, we need to address. We got the guy to address the politicians, we got him.
We need to create jobs, we need to empower our people, we need to make people rich. And we're going to have hotels or whatever it is around your outer circle, and there ain't none now. And we must appeal to them, and we're creating jobs, and hey man, he's going to buy in just like that. But it's scary, but you got to gamble to get your result.
Why just like that is what worries me.
Why don't we go for the whole lot?
So much, and I've talked to these guys, and I don't know, there's something missing here, man.
The right politician is going to buy into the system because there's going to be lots of money on those peripheral issues.
But I put a website already up with a preliminary plan on this called theearthplan.com. And it's to do with basically sharing the resources out, but putting together a plan that works. And the reason the plan hasn't worked in the past is that they give it to the farm laborers, they don't know how to manage it, they don't have the skill set to manage an existing successful farm. Now the laborer is now the CEO and he doesn't have any management training. It collapses. Now they're producing nothing. This go up north further, go into Zimbabwe, all that. Total failure. So, but putting together a strategy where we're implementing actually a constitution, that's a people's constitution. People have different responsibilities and roles, and recognition, and reward system tied in with it. And that's what you want. So putting together something which actually is a system which works and is driven. And that, I believe, is what needs to happen. A boilerplate. To say, listen, we've got these type of ecological issues, this is how we solve it. And then you'll see people come in, they come in to help the politicians, they come in to say, gee, we want to have clean water, how can we clean the water? We don't have any water, how can we get water? There's solutions for all of these things. And then putting together boilerplates so people can go out and say, hey, let's go with this.
In principle, if we could persuade people through utilising their common decency, which you said they will, once they see the point of it, they'll go for it. They'll take down their fences. We set up a strategy. We have certain areas which are water catchment areas. Maybe we just go for the pavilions. Maybe it's actually more effective because people like even bigger, more huge thing. They might be even more effective to go for the whole mountain chain.
I would
and
do
set
a
up
small
some.
one. I would actually, in fact, I chose my friend's farm. I would do a small one where it's managed and there are not too many people in the pie who
No,
want.
don't forget, listen, we're not here to talk about how to get one going. We're here to talk about a policy that we would like to see. How would South Africa be? Sorry, let me finish. How would South Africa be? How would it look in the future? I'm not saying what are we going to do first, what are we going to do second. That's another issue. What we're trying to work out, what the hell would South Africa look like if we had got conservation right? And we've got to jump ahead. We can't say, oh, I must do a small one. I can't annoy anybody.
And it starts at category 1.
Yeah, I agree.
That doesn't, but I mean, it can work.
May I make a suggestion that we here agree to get Rogers up and running as fast as bloody possible, possibly using your adoption scheme.
And even if is anybody do they know a thing called Second Life? Who knows what Second Life is?
Okay, well, how we'll talk on Thursday. Because we may use it for much more than even this conservation project. We might use it for all our projects.
Second Life is it's a fictional thing. I'm not saying yours is fictional. Yours is something that can exist. So what these people did with Second Life, you must have been no Second Life. They went and they've gone and created a whole world. And it's there, the trades, over $27 million a day gets traded in this fictional world that somebody just created as an idea. So if we take the Roger and Natasha's area, and we say there it is, and it is actually a reality. It's just, it's a dream, and a dream is just reality that doesn't exist yet. And they've got the blueprint. So people say, okay, well that's a lot of wada. Where? Look, I asked you, where's Karedo? Where's the Storms River Mountain? And he points it out because there it is. You can relate to it. So all we have to do is create the dream and turn it into reality.
The long-term situation might be the fenceless South Africa, with a different policy in place and human beings living in connectivity with nature much more. The very short-term plan is pavilions must get up as fast as possible with that main area in between which nobody can go into except on foot. No, not 10 years, the next 2 years. Okay, and then the next thing is that we then aim at when we pose the pavilions, we simultaneously give them the idea we're going to be actually considering putting the entire mountain chain as the next section and developing from there. Okay, so that's where we're going to try and get to, and that's what we're going to put forward on Thursday. And all these systems are some of the ones that you and both Herbie have brought up, which may not only apply to this conservation, they might actually also apply. Some of the threats that we're dealing up against are not only going to be threats in conservation, they're going to be threats in our agricultural changes and our restitution of the soils as well too. So they're going to be very useful to hear that and to also have that idea of the IT link from people from all over the world to bring it about.